Hello everyone. Welcome to the first of the ICBE virtual training rooms from the ICBE Aviation Skillnet. Today our presenter is Dermot Nolan from Moondance, guiding us through the practicalities of leading virtual teams in challenging times. Dermot founded Moondance Business Consultants in 2011, having previously acted as associate consultant with Accenture, in addition to numerous roles within the Bank of Ireland. He lectures at UCD, the Dublin Business School, the Digital Marketing Institute, and is also a mentor for both Enterprise Ireland and Dún Laoghaire Local Enterprise Office. Dermot was a non-exec director for the Irish Payment Services Organisation, the Irish Internet Association, and the Payments Council in the UK. Over the course of 90 minutes, Dermot will share insights and tools to firstly manage yourselves as leaders, and before secondly guiding us through how to manage remote teams and his learnings in those. The ground rules for today, we'll be flexible enough around them. It'll be a mix of presentations, polls, and exercises, and we're trying to kind of create it because it's a small group. We can create a little bit more interactivity. While the presentation is going on, I'll be managing the chat. So if there's anything you want to add or any comments or any kind of questions, please put them in chat, and I'll call them out when need be. But everyone should be unmuted now, so unless there's background noise, we might keep you unmuted so that if people want questions, it might be even easier to ask them as we're going through. And without further ado, I'll pass you over to Dermot.
Great, thank you, Owen. I wish my mammy could hear that introduction. She'd be very impressed. She's wondered for years what I do. So
all true.
Off you, so listen, thank you, Owen, for that. And it's nice to meet you all virtually in these strange times, I suppose. We're going to be together for the next 90 minutes, and hopefully we'll be able to learn from some of the content I'm sharing. We'll be able to learn perhaps from each other and identify maybe some actions. And we try and have a little bit of fun along the way as well, in these kind of slightly more grim times that we're all experiencing at the moment. So the objectives that we want to cover, is everybody able to see the slides first of all?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we've kind of got four that we want to get through, guys. We want to look at best practices in terms of leading virtual teams. We're going to take a little bit of time to look at you as individuals, first of all, because there is merit in understanding where you're at in terms of your own mindset before you start to turn your attention to teams. So we're going to look at work life, and we're also going to look at a concept called energy management. And throughout the 90 minutes and at the end and subsequently, we're going to really try and keep an eye on actions. We want to try and make this as efficient for you as possible so that you can actually take stuff away and do something with them. So hopefully that will be the case. Hi, Gillian. I see you've been able to join us there now. We have it there in the background now. Okay, and then lastly, we're conscious that as individuals, you come from different perspectives in terms of seniority, small teams versus large teams. So we're going to look at it from the point of view of cascading as well. So are there things that we talk about today that you go, actually, I need to share those with the wider organisation going forward. So they're the main objectives, and we'll turn to them at the end of the session as well. Maybe just to kind of get us all going, if it's okay. I'd like to just each of you to briefly introduce yourselves. We'll run around the different rooms. So just very quickly, if you can just give us your name, who you're working for, and what part of the country you're dialing in from today. So Mary, you might go first, would you, if you don't mind?
Okay, yeah, no problem. Mary Crowdell. I work currently for Danone, and they're based in Wexford and make infant formula for babies, basically. And I'm trying to lead a kind of a site-wide project, to be honest, to implement computer software that's going to track our products and give the customers visibility from what they call farm to fork as such. So yeah, I'm there for 5 years now, but I was previously in Boston Scientific, so I know Brona.
Hey Mary, how are you?
You weren't expecting to meet each other today.
No.
I know, yeah.
Very good. Well, Brona, you might go next then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so my name is Brona Fleming. As Mary said, I work in Boston Scientific in Clonmel. So there's 3 Boston Scientific sites in Ireland, and the one in Clonmel, mainly, I suppose, we manufacture defibs and pacemakers. And I suppose in the last few years, we've branched out into kind of neuromodulation devices for Parkinson's. And just a little bit about my role. So I suppose at the moment, what I'm doing is supporting functional departments and supporting them, I suppose, to implement lean practice in their daily lives. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. And then I work in Clonmel and I live in Rathgormack. So it's just about 20 minutes from Clonmel.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Brian. You're very welcome. PJ, would you mind giving us a quick tour of your situation, please?
Okay, so I work for an aviation company. So we do aircraft maintenance. We're down in this essential services at the moment because we're working on freighter type aircraft. Okay. So it's quite a number of people in the company. So the social distancing is a challenge for us. But to be fair to the organisation, they make the maximum effort at it. I work in quality assurance, so we do audits, and that there's probably 6 people in our team. Okay. So we have for some time been trying to figure out ways of more efficiently managing our work, and that's so we use a thing called target process. It's kind of an agile tool. Yeah. And that's been a big help with this remote working for us, because we're trying to split the office into only 50% of the people being there at any time. We find that that's been a great help in tracking who's doing what, because one of the challenges I find is when you're at home, you know, there's an assumption as to, well, what are different people doing? Sure. Yeah. We find that a good tool for that. That's
okay, great. Thank you, PJ. Well, we might pick your brains on some of those things later on as well. So thank you. Gillian, would you mind giving us a quick run through yourself as well? And nice to speak to you again.
Sorry, I just unmuted Gillian. Apologies, Gillian, if you were talking there. I had you muted by accident.
Oh yeah, sorry. And apologies, it took me a while to get my technology sorted and dialed in. So sorry I missed the beginning. I work in an aircraft leasing company, and I'm in HR. So we at the moment are trying to support obviously all of our employees around the world who are now working remotely, and also obviously dealing with a very challenging situation in the aviation industry in terms of trying to support our customers at this time as well. So really what I'm hoping to get out of today is both for myself, but obviously also with a view to having some good practices that I can use to support our people managers and our employees around the business in terms of just keeping up their resilience during this time, as well as good remote working practices in terms of making sure people are very clear on their objectives and what they need to do, and also how to work together as a team, and ultimately like how to deliver for our customers in this environment.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Gillian. We should touch on a lot of those areas, I hope. So you're very welcome. Brendan, would you mind giving us a quick overview as well, please?
Yeah, so my name is Brendan O'Grady. I'm working in Amgen Pharmaceuticals. It's based in Dunleary in Dublin. So I actually joined as a graduate in September. So I just kind of finished up college in June, graduated in August, and started a job in September. I'm working in operational excellence, and I suppose at the moment what we're trying to do is figure out a way of kind of allowing people to do their visual daily management in a virtual way. So hopefully we'll kind of get that out of today.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm a bit up the road from you there, Brendan. I'm up in Glenageary, so we're
very good. Yeah,
we're probably close enough, I'd say. You're
yeah, well, at the moment now I'm down in Limerick, so it's a bit of a trek away. But
all right, we probably saw each other on the pier at some stage.
I'm sure we did. Yeah.
Great, well, thank you. And then the last person I just want to introduce, we don't have a name. They've got a complicated ID of U295780.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why that came up. Tom Caffrey is my name. I work in Lufthansa Technik Shannon. We're an aircraft overhaul facility. So we're part of Lufthansa multinational, so we use Skype a lot for regular calls, and that works okay for us. Okay. We're deemed essential services like PJ, so a lot of the work has to happen maintaining the aircraft. So people are on site, so we've set up physical distancing by changing shifts, restaurant, and a lot of protocols on the ground. But a lot of the people who need to support the business, they're also essential, but they don't really need to be on site. But we don't have a very effective mechanism for enabling people to support the business remotely. We also have a training school, and we're pretty much a chalk and talk organization and training. But now we're forced to support our customers remotely, and the guys are pulled into Skype, Teams, which they don't seem to be getting a lot of love for, Blackboard and Moodle. So that's why I said I'd join. I probably don't have much to contribute other than questions at this stage, but hopefully to pick up from the wisdom that's on this call.
Okay, well, thank you, and hopefully we can address some of those issues as well. You're very welcome. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, well, listen, that's all the introductions. We'll move on now. We're going to do just kind of some quick kind of overview first of all. But one thing I just kind of want to draw to your attention is that, as I mentioned already, we're trying to make this as action orientated as possible. So one of the recommendations that we'll have at the end of the 90 minutes is that you take us some time today, tomorrow, to think about the insights that you've derived from today and what you want to do about them. And we use this model called the Boardman Structure when you see the table at the bottom of that slide, which is basically what. So what are the insights that most resonated with you? The so what is why did they grab your attention? Why are they relevant to you in this particular moment? And then the now what then is the action. The action might be that you're going to approach the day differently, or you're going to share it with one of your colleagues, or you're going to put something in your diary on a weekly basis, whatever they are, and each of them would be specific to ourselves. So we're going to keep an eye on these three categories over the next while. But if you have a pad beside you, you might just scribble down even those three headings for now and use them for your notes later on. So it's the what, the so what, and the now what, and we'll come back to those periodically. We're going to do a quick two quick polls now. Owen's going to run them, and it's just really to get a sense of where you're at. So you should see the poll appearing on your screen right now. So the first question is, are you currently leading a team? And very complicated answer. It's either yes or no. So we just give you a few seconds to click on that, please.
Dermot, do you mean managing a team or working with a team? Just
I think that you will be a line manager or a supervisor in some way. Okay. Yeah. That they will view you as their boss, I suppose.
Perfect.
So are those scores coming through on?
Yeah, I'll just give one more second just in case there's any lag on people selecting, or presume everyone can see the poll. But it's actually 50-50 at the moment. So I might as well finish it, and we can go on to the next poll then.
This is like the Eurovision Song Contest here, guys. We're going to cover it all here. So yeah, so and that's not a surprise that it is half and half. And the good news is that we have this pitch for both people who are leading teams, but also people who are not, who are, as Brona says, they're part of a team, and they may well want to share some of the knowledge and the best practices in that regard. So great, thank you. And we move on to just one other quick one as well then. And again, this is just useful for me to help pitch the content. So the question is, what is your remote working experience? And the three answers are, I'm new to this, I've occasionally done it, or it's been a regular work practice for us for some time prior to the crisis. So it's not just kind of in the last couple of weeks. So again, Owen is going to pop that up on our screens, and if you can answer either 1, 2, or 3, please.
Can people see that poll?
No.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, I'll restart it again. Okay, how about now?
Great, thanks, Tom.
No, I still can't.
No. Wonder if I close it.
Okay, might move on, Dermot, just in case
Yes,
it's a
no worries,
glitch
no
on
worries.
Zoom.
Just can I get a quick show of hands then? How many people have been doing remote working for quite some time? And if I ask you,
I suppose about 3-4 weeks now.
okay, very good. And that seems to be the concept as I look around the different screens here. So it looks like the majority of us that this is new, and you know, not something that we're not like an old hand at this who's been doing this for many years now at this stage. Perfect. So we'll pitch it on that basis as well then. Thank you. So here's our agenda, guys. We've got 5 sections we want to cover. The first 2 are about you as individuals, and you'll see why that's important in a couple of minutes' time. And then we're going to look into acting as a. Actually, the survey just popped up now.
Yeah, it just popped up.
Yeah, we launched 3 times for somebody. I'd say it's probably just number of people using Zoom. You can expect some glitches.
Very good. Should we then we'll just let it run there in the background, and you can tell us in a few minutes then on. So yeah, then we're going to move into the team situation, and we're going to look at remote working, and then, as I say, we want to finish up with some action so that we all walk away with concrete things to do, as opposed to we just spent a bit of time together and then we don't do anything as a result of that. There are 2 kind of contextual slides I want to briefly share with you. This is an article that I read last week from the Harvard Business Review. I suspect that most of you are familiar with it. It's called That Discomfort You're Feeling is Grief. And it's written from the perspective of what we are all going through, both individually in our personal lives, our family lives, and also in our professional lives as well, both in Ireland and around the world. It really kind of caught me for kind of 2 reasons. First of all, you know, I was trying to think of a word to put on my emotions, and I actually think grief is not a bad definition of it. And you see why when you know, if you look at what the author talks about, there's that loss of our normal lives. We're all worried about the financial impact. We definitely are missing out on that connection, you know, be that work or family or neighbors or anything like that. And then there is this what they call the anticipatory grief as well, and that our future mightn't be as good, you know. I suspect most of us are feeling at least some of those emotions right now. And the main thing why this article grabbed me though is that the point it's making is that it's very unusual that we're all experiencing this type of grief at the exact same time, you know. So, you know, sadly, we've all had situations in our lives where we have lost some of the I suspect. But that tends to be specific to you and your family, and no matter how kind and empathetic your friends and your work colleagues are, they don't really know what you're going through right now. Whereas this is the first time, perhaps ever, certainly in modern times, where we're all experiencing that in a collective way. So you're probably familiar with the what they call the stages of grief, and I won't go through those in huge detail, but it's worth looking at later if you get a chance. And just to say, guys, that for a lot of these articles that are referred to, I include the URL at the bottom, and you know, if any of these kind of grab your attention, do go and have a flick through them in a bit more detail. So basically, what there's 6 stages of grief now. There used to be 5, there's now 6, and in fact, what the author is saying is think about all of these for yourself. But if possible, we should try to go to number 6, which is meaning. And you know, I know some of us are better than this than others, where we're saying, okay, we did not choose to be in our kitchen, our sitting room, our garden shed today. But we're going to get on with it now. I'm going to make the most of it. And this is probably an unexpected start to what you thought you were going to cover today. But it's actually really important, both for you as leaders in your organization and also as colleagues as part of a wider team. So I just want to say that by what that way of context. And what it's leading to, guys, is these 3 questions. And again, it's a recent article I read. It's a guy called Hubert Jody, who is the chairman of Best Buy, who you probably are familiar with in the US. And he has posed 3 questions to us as professionals. The first is related to us, are we spending enough time taking care of ourselves? The second thing is in relation to our teams, and that can be either as a line manager or as a colleague. What actions are you taking to help your team? And number 3 then, and this one really gets me as well, is what do you want your leadership from this time to be remembered? So what's your legacy? So, if one of your colleagues, PJ or Gillian or Mary or anybody else, bumped into you in 5 years, 10 years time, is there something that they would remind you that you did during this period that just went a little bit extra and resulted in them feeling better or doing something different in time? So we're going to try and tease that out a little bit more over the next hour or so, and we mightn't crack it all individually today, but I'd really love it by the end of the next couple of days that you've all kind of reflected on that and perhaps adjusted something in terms of your approach, your manner, your style, so that, in time, your colleagues are going to go, what you did during that period was extraordinary, and I'll never forget you for that, and it is possible. That is within our own gift. And we'll share some ideas on that over the next while. I might just pause for a second there. Anybody, any comments or reactions to those 3 questions? Do they grab your attention in any way?
Who will go first? The legacy one I find interesting, because it seems to be coming out the more I hear in terms of us preparing for when we get out of it. Where we're at the moment, we're focused on the tsunami that's in front of us.
Yeah.
It will pass, but it's we need to be planning for when it does pass. And part of that, you're right, is that what do we do during that period? Do we just survive it, or do we go stronger?
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I say to you guys is that you've got 2 choices in the next whatever, 75 minutes now. You can listen to me drone on, and I can do that for hours. Or you can make the pain slightly easier on yourselves and take the chance to contribute and so on. And what I say to you is that we're all in this kind of room together for the first and probably only time, okay? And we unfortunately probably will never meet each other. Certainly as a group, we probably never meet each other at any stage in the future. So this is our chance to kind of throw things around. It's kind of a safe world. Nobody's going to comment or judge or anything like that. So as you feel comfortable, I'd be very appreciative if there are observations or thoughts or a different opinion. I'd be delighted to have a good row as well if that's appropriate. So we're going to keep an eye on these 3 questions over the next while. So I'm going to touch on managing myself first of all, and somebody may have heard of this book, a guy called Peter Drucker, called Managing Oneself. And basically what it's all about is you're holding a mirror to yourself and you're thinking about who you are as an individual. And once we have a better handle on that, we can become better colleagues, we can become better managers as well. And it's all about self-awareness. So really trying to think about, what am I good at? What am I not so good at? What are my core beliefs? What are my emotions? What do I react well to? What do I kind of, flare against? Are there buttons if you touch, I will get cranky very quickly? Or are there topics which I'm very passionate about and I want to discuss them more? To think about what they are for ourselves as individuals is something that's quite important in this situation. So what we have here is that we have 9 what you might call top tips or best practices in this regard. Okay, now guys, some of these are what you might call basic, and some of these you're going to go, I know all that already, Dermot, and you don't need to tell me about that kind of stuff. But there'll be others that you might just catch your attention a little bit, and there'll be others that you do know already, but you mightn't be doing enough. So take them on the basis of either a reminder or perhaps something that you haven't come across before. And we're going to fly through these very quickly. But I hit pause at any stage if you want to deliberate and end in a bit more detail. And the last point to make is before we go through these is that we use these top tips for team leadership sessions in general. But they all specifically have been selected for the remote situation that we're working with too. So these do apply in the office when we all get back together again, but that they also are very relevant to us in the distant world that we're in right now. So number one, very basic, but you know, the whole best practice here is to own your own time, and this is particularly relevant given, you know, the emails and chat and Teams and Skype, and you know, you can be bombarded if you're not careful. And so we do have to kind of make sure that we're getting through our own stuff on the day, and we're not just replying the whole time. And I think, Owen, you'll agree that, you know, in a remote sense, trying to manage this can be quite challenging. You know, it's harder to do it when you're not beside somebody, believe it or not. So we want to try and think about that. Is there anything you could do from now on that will get you to own that time in a little bit more order in that regard? The second one, again, is something you probably have come across before. Is this empty inbox, and very good article down below from the Independent in the UK last year, I think, was published. And really what we're trying to do here is think about how we can manage that inbox, and you know, the whole concept of not drowning on an email, and secondly, always been, you know, generating that brand, that persona as somebody who will always reply to an email. So if I write to Brendan today, I know I will get a reply back. If I leave a message with Gillian, I know that I can rely on her that within 24 hours, 48 hours, she will get back to me. You know, that I don't feel I have to keep on chasing or worry that it's just going to go down her inbox overall. So there's some good kind of best practices there that are worth looking at. And if email is something that you're finding a battle ordinarily, and in particular, as we are in this remote situation, I do recommend reading that article, and there are other articles associated with that as well. So that's number two. Number three then is this kind of prioritization piece, and you know, so you'd be familiar with the matrix that talks about important and urgent, and we do have to get that battle of getting things done right, and done in the right order. And I don't know about you, but I like my to-do lists, but my tendency is to pick off the easy ones first of all, or the ones I like doing. And I've got this paper, so tonight I got to get a paper out tonight at some stage, and it's been winking up at me for 48 hours now, and I've probably done about half it now, but at any moment's notice, I'd be so pleased to be distracted and leave it aside for half an hour, you know. So that's very human, you know.
Eat the frog early out of those.
Yeah, good way of saying it, Owen. Good way of saying it. So you know, can you look at that? And obviously urgent we got to sort out, but equally we do have to look at important as well. So have a think about that, and a very good article down below in that regard too. And then I'm going to slightly contradict myself here, but not entirely. This is a very good concept. It's called, I can never pronounce it, but I'm going to go with the Zeigarnik effect, and have a Google later on if it's not a concept that you're familiar with. But basically what it is that you know, so if you're writing that paper or that important email, or you know, you're finishing off that spreadsheet, or you're about to issue the, you know, that presentation to the customer, there's nothing more satisfying than having it done, and you're about to flick it on. But what the Zeigarnik effect says is that if you can, before you send it, before you publish it, before you share it, set it aside for a small period of time, and that can be as short as 10-15 minutes, or it could be as long as overnight. And the whole thing is that if we pause and leave it sitting aside and come back in that 15 minutes next morning, whatever it is, you have a look at it again, and you will sharpen it, and you'll be a bit fresher, you know. And just to give you an example, so I finished writing this module yesterday lunchtime, and myself and Owen have been working on it for the last week or so. But I deliberately printed it this morning when I started work, and looked at it from start to finish, and I probably made 4 or 5 changes, nothing significant, but something that I just felt I changed the order, I changed some wording, and it's because I was looking at it fresh. I hadn't looked at it in about 15 or 16 hours, and I was sharper as a result of that. So certainly worth looking at in that regard. Because we're good workers and we're good corporate citizens, we do try to avoid saying no, particularly to our bosses. You know, they generally don't really welcome that. But equally, we do have to try and make sure as to the consequences. And certainly in our world at the moment, you know, we're getting bombarded with lots of requests and different queries and so on. And you know, on one hand, I'm delighted to get them, but on the other hand, you know, occasionally we do have to say to a colleague, yeah, I understand why you're raising that with me now. I'm actually working on X and Y at the moment. Would it be okay if I came back to you tomorrow? Or would you like me just to hold off on X and go and focus on Z right now, and I'll come back to X tomorrow? You know, so you're just trying to have that kind of, you know, adult discussion with your colleague or with your line manager or with your more junior team member, and usually a better outcome as a result of that overall. Then the to-do list, so I'm a big fan of these, and there's two different versions. There's the 1351, which you may have come across before. So this is basically saying, you know, every morning, so there's one big thing I'm going to get done, there's 3 medium things I'm going to get done, and there's 5 small things I'm going to get done. And just categorizing them like that, it should mean you don't just do the small things, you do get into the mediums and the big as well. So I start that every morning. So I have my my notepad, and that's kind of a very kind of like 3 or 4 minute thing I do. I ain't perfect, guys. There are times where I don't get that big thing done, and I might only get one of the mediums, but at least it's winking up at me, and you know, rarely 2 or 3 days go by without me getting it resolved, as opposed to, you know, maybe ad infinitum. There's another version of the to-do list then, which is, you kind of categorize it in terms of important, which is number 1. 2 is urgent, you know, that must be done today. And one that I have enjoyed seeing some people do in the past is the not to do list, and to actually write down the things you're not going to do. And it sounds stupid in a way, doesn't it? You know, but there's something about when you write it down and then later on you go to do it. And you go, hold a second, Dermot, just this morning you said you ain't going to do that today, you know. And again, usually on that not to do list are kind of the things you enjoy doing, or you're kind of, you know, you feel stimulated by them in some way, but they're often not important at all, you know. So certainly worth having to think about, you know, what's on your not to do list, particularly in the remote world of working in now, guys, you know, where it is so easy to get tempted, isn't it? You know, because you aren't sitting beside somebody, and you know, you could see an hour, 2, 3 hours go by very quickly while you're going fast and not really get your work done overall. The solo meeting might be a bit American, you know, but sometimes they do have sense. So this is kind of a slot in your diary. So mine is for about 4 o'clock every Friday. Just put a little slot, and I just call it next week in my diary. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking a couple of minutes to think about, did I get everything done that I thought I would? And then I'm thinking about next week as well. And it's actually quite, I find it quite therapeutic because I'm doing the Friday afternoon. And mostly I'm kind of pleased with what I got done. Occasionally I had to give myself a reprimand and give myself a good talking to. But equally what it does is that when I start again on Monday morning, I have some kind of a list of things that I can get at quickly, you know, and it just kind of feels like kind of a bookend between the end of the week and the start of the week next one. So something to think about as well. And then the last two, and I direct this one at particularly the team leaders amongst us today, but it does apply to maybe people who aren't supervisors at the moment. This came from the chief executive of Pepsi, and he has a thing that there's 2 parts to it. He's very clear on leaving the office, and that's kind of both physical and metaphorical. So for me, how I used to know that I left the office, that when I got back home, you know, when you were out and you came back, I took off my suit, and there was something about going up the stairs, taking off my suit, usually putting on a tracksuit, a hoodie, whatever else it is, and I'd gone from being, you know, Dermot the consultant to Dermot the husband, and Dermot the dad. So that was kind of my little trigger, you know. So and I think this applies so much more in the remote working situation that we have right now. You know, because the temptation, particularly if that laptop is in the corner of the sitting room or it's on the kitchen counter or whatever else it is, the temptation to go back at 7 o'clock and at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock to go again, because it's there, is very significant, and it's not good. It's not a good thing to do. We have to turn our heads off. So I'd strongly recommend for you to think about what's your end of day thing, even over the next month while we're in this world. You know, that you use that as a trigger to go, yep, I'm finished work. I'm going down the stairs. I'm going into the kitchen. I'm putting the laptop into my bag, whatever that is, and you know, think about that anchor is, and make it happen for yourselves. And you will choose to do that, nobody else. So feel strongly about that. Then the last one, and again, this came from the chief executive of Pepsi. So, and again, this is slightly in the old world that we had a couple of weeks ago, where we're actually in the same building as each other. So he made a big fuss out of leaving the office loudly, and as the chief executive, you know, so he would leave maybe 3 o'clock on a Wednesday every so often, because he was going to his daughter's football match or his son's concert, and the signal that he was given to his team to do likewise was extremely strong, because if the boss is doing that, well, then you're effectively giving your colleagues permission to do likewise. But I would argue that this applies equally in the remote working life that we have right now. I had one client who this week, he's the chief executive of a large financial services organization, and just this week he put as a footer in his email, he said, my working hours are Monday to Friday, 8 to 6. Occasionally I will email you outside of those hours, but I do not expect nor want you to reply during outside of that window, you know. And I just thought it was really symbolic of him, particularly in the world that we're in right now, you know. So he effectively, in his footnote there, he's leaving the office loudly, and he's given permission to his colleagues. He's 700 colleagues, and he's given permission to each one of those to do likewise. And I think it's very smart, both to the individuals, but it's also smart in the work context, because we do need to turn our heads off on occasion. It's not good to always be on. And one of the big dangers of remote working is always being on and not switching off. And you can only do that for so long, and burnout will occur otherwise. So they're kind of 9 things, and they're drawn from lots of different research and so on. Any comments or suggestions? Any ones that kind of grabbed your attention? Any ones you were doing already? Any ones that you disagree with?
I think the 135 list is a great idea.
Yeah, it's simple.
It's good to have that big thing, but then a couple of small things as well, just to kind of separate out the day and break out the day, so you're not just focused on one big thing. There's a lot of things going on during the day, keep you interested, but then kind of moving on to other things so you're not getting stale.
Exactly, Brendan. Totally agree with that. Yeah, totally agree with that. Thank you.
I like the one about the leave the office behind you, because I've certainly, I mean, I'd be bad enough when I'd be going into work. I'd be working at home in the evening. But now I was finding that, like, I'd be going down to the dinner and then coming back up to just finish off that one thing, you know. So
2 hours later, then you're leaving.
Yeah. So I've actually noted it down here. Put away the laptop. Actually put the bag in a different room, so you have to go into a different room to get it. So that was, you know, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair, Mary. Yeah.
And you know it's not the right thing to be doing, but when you hear someone else telling you, it's okay. I definitely have to change this.
Yeah. And Bron is right though. You know, you might have intended it just to be 5 minutes. As you say, Bron, 2 hours go by so fast.
Yeah, and I actually find I work, like, I'd rather work a normal day as such, but I do find I'm better in the nighttime. I can concentrate better in the nighttime. I don't know what it is, but when you've worked all day and then it's the evening time and you shouldn't be working, it's hard.
Yeah, you know, and listen, don't get me wrong, guys. You know, our companies, our countries, the world are in a crisis right now. So that can mean, you know, having to work harder and longer, and I don't think any of us will object to that in any way, you know. But there is a limit where beyond which we are not effective, and we either take a long time to do something that shouldn't take that time, or we start to make mistakes, or we get emotional, we get cranky, we have rows, so there's a commercial feeling to this. It's not just because we want to be nice to ourselves, and I feel very strongly about that. So I show you occasionally some Dilbert cartoons along the way, because I think he's very wise.
It's brilliant.
Next, so work life. We're all very aware of what work life is, guys. So I don't need to bore you with a definition of what that is. But what effectively we're trying to do is we're trying to juggle these four balls, aren't we? Our work, our family, our community, and ourselves. And unfortunately, sometimes the work outweighs the other three. And we all know that's wrong. You don't need me to tell you today that ain't a good idea. But just work gets in the way, and there's priorities, and there's tasks, and there's deadlines, and so on, and that is okay lots of times, but occasionally we have to get this seesaw and more at a kind of an equilibrium, and again, we're not doing it just because we're nice people. We're doing it because we're trying to avoid burnout. Okay. So I want to another poll very quickly then, please, Owen, if you don't mind. So the question here is, prior to the COVID crisis, did you feel you had a good work-life balance? Yes or no? There's no wrong answer here, guys.
Hopefully it's appeared okay this time. Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess for me, just on the work-life balance thing, I found since starting this remote working thing, we're actually logging into work, it's like a time thing, and I'm trying to stick pretty much to the same times and breaks. I found that a good help in saying that this is the end of the day and kind of prioritizing the task for today. Whereas I found at the start, you could do something in the middle of the day and then you were working late into the evening, and it just seemed like never-ending work then for a finish.
Yeah,
so
I totally agree, PJ.
Standardized.
Totally agree, PJ. Totally agree. We're going to touch on that in a minute now. Thank you. What's the Eurovision results saying to us, Owen?
Sorry, I have to share there. It's 50-50 actually.
Okay, that's good, right? So then
it's changed actually. It's slightly changed. It's 67-33.
And in favor of what, Owen?
So 67% of people are yes, and 33 are no.
Okay, and then if we do the exact same question, but kind of a bit more current. So the question here is, how has this changed in recent weeks? So number 1, has it worsened? 2, no change. 3, it has improved. So we'll throw that up there again, Owen, please, if you don't mind.
And it should be launching now.
Perfect, thanks.
So mainly on that it has worsened. One, I'll just give it one more second because sometimes I lag. But 75% for worsened and 25% for improved. But I'll share it now.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't surprise me, and I'm probably, depending on the day or the hour of the day, I probably am either a 1 or a 3, so sometimes I'm definitely a 1 because, just the barrage of stuff. But I am a 3 on occasion because I'm having breakfast and lunch with my wife and my sons, which I haven't had in years, so there are some advantages in that regard as well. So on that note, guys, so this is a busy slide, but it is something we want to just take a couple minutes to have a think about, okay? So this is what we call an energy audit, okay? And it's across 4 different sections: the body, the emotions, the mind, and the spirit, okay? And we're just going to ask you to look at each one of those, and on your piece of paper beside you, put an X, if that statement is true for you. So if you agree with the statement, I don't regularly get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I often wake up feeling tired, put an X against that statement, okay? And what I say to you is, don't take time on these, don't deliberate on them. Whatever the immediate answer is, put it down, right? And what we want you just to do is we want you just to add up the number of X's that you have, okay? So literally do this in 60 seconds, because if you take any longer, you start to second guess yourself almost, you know. So put an X against each of the statements that you agree, and add up the X's. We're not going to ask anybody to share your what you X'd or not, but we'd be interested to see you know, kind of roughly what are the totals overall. So can we give you 60 seconds, please? Don't deliberate, would be my strong advice. So just maybe another 20 seconds, guys, and we'll go again then, if that's all right.
Just having a difficulty interacting with the screen to do that.
Okay, PJ, you're not able to read them out, are you not?
I just can't place the X myself.
Oh, no, sorry. It's probably to jot down beside you, PJ,
Oh, yeah.
on a piece of paper. Sorry, my apologies. My apologies, PJ. Yeah, what we do is we can issue these later on by way of slides if that's what helps you later.
Okay.
Anybody like to? And we're not asking for people to get into their innermost thoughts here now, guys. But anybody like to share how many X's you had?
Like 9.
Yeah, sounds that's
Yeah.
not
Like
unusual.
bad or good.
Yeah, I had 7, but I probably should have another 1 or 2.
Yeah, I'm an 8, depending on what day of the week it is.
Yeah, sounds all right.
Yeah, I had 10.
7.
7.
10, okay. 10 size so far.
What about Tom or Gillian? Any totals for you?
Yeah, I had 10. So, but I'm also one of the guys who is finding better life balance now than before.
Okay,
so.
that's interesting. So that might mean, Tom, if you'd done this a month ago, maybe you had 12 then.
Possibly, quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. And what about you, Gillian?
Let me go down and say apologies. Sorry, Gillian, my fault. I muted you there.
Yeah, don't worry. Likewise, I'm actually finding better work-life balance without the commute and just getting to see the kids a little bit during the day. So actually, I was down to about 5 now, whereas I had done this exercise a while ago and I was at 12. So it's interesting.
Wow. That doesn't surprise me, Gillian. Yeah, I can understand that, you know. So thank you guys for sharing, you know. And just to give you a sense, and again, I have the article here on slide 33 here. So you can see that by way of the definitions that you know, if you've got, you know, 11 plus, the authors would argue that you have what they call an energy crisis. 7 to 10, you got some deficiencies to deal with. 4 to 6, you're in pretty good place, and 0 to 3, you're excellent. I've probably done this with maybe 400 or 500 people over the last few years. I haven't done it scientifically, but my feeling is we're all around about the 8 to 10 mark, thereabouts. So quite reflective of this group here today as well. And I don't recall ever having somebody who said they were a 0 to a 3. In fact, if they did, I wonder whether they'd approach it correctly, you know, in the modern world that we live in. So I want you to think about that, okay? And I also want you later to look at those X's and reflect on, is there anything that you can do about them, you know, because nobody else is going to do it for you guys. Your mommy, your daddy, your husband, your wife, your boss, your colleague ain't going to solve any of those for you. This is for you to work on yourselves, and it is within your control, and I strongly feel that overall. So very quickly, just kind of 5 things in this area. We do a 2-day seminar on energy management. So I'm bringing this down to about 15 minutes. So I'm trying to give you the headlines only. So procrastination is definitely something that is an issue for us as managers, as workers in organizations. And the interesting thing, and there's a superb article in the New York Times down below. I would have thought that procrastination is somebody who's lazy, but the psychiatrists say no, it's actually not. It's an emotional thing. We're trying to push off something that we don't want to do, and I actually recognize that, you know, and you can see those emotions of boredom, anxiety, resentment, and so on, you know. So next time you realize, you know, because you're doing your 1, 3, 5 list from tomorrow, but you realize that you're rolling them over, have a look and see why that is happening. And this article would suggest that it's procrastinating, not because you're lazy, but because there's an emotion been triggered by that task. And think about that and see if there's a way you can overcome that in some way. So I found this one quite releasing when I read it last year. Some of you may come across the Marie Kondo book or Netflix. So basically, she's helping us all to tidy our houses. I've tried it in my house, and my wife and sons had a meeting without me, and they refused to do anything whatsoever. So I'm on my own here. But there's a lovely article as well, which is basically, you know, can you Kondo your work life? You know, so can you clean up the way you approach your work and your tasks and so on? You know, so it is about clarity, you know, and just even something like your desk, is it tidy or is it covered in crap? You know, think about your data, your security, and so on. So worth looking at as well. One of my favorite photos of all time. The situation here is the White House, and it's obviously Obama, well, what I love about it is the guy in the background there is the rabbi. I think he's the rabbi of Washington D.C. And once a year he has some type of meet and greet with the president, and he brings his family along. And what I love is that the daughter, for whatever reason, is having an absolute meltdown. But my favorite part of this photograph is the rabbi's wife, the mum. And even though she's in front of the most powerful man in the world, you can see she's shrugging and going, I'm sorry, you know, she did it in Tesco's yesterday, and there's nothing I can do. You know, I suggest we just ignore her for a few minutes and we will carry on, you know. So it's rare you see somebody in your office lie down on the floor and have a tantrum. Although I've gone there once or twice almost. But equally, you know, we do see our colleagues losing their heads, you know, and the big tip here is, you know, for you to stay calm while that is happening, you know, and you know, so is there any danger that you are that little girl on the floor on occasion, or is there any possibility that you could be that mother, you know, and react as you see somebody lose it a bit, you know? And you know, we've all been in situations where we should have behaved better, or we should have helped the colleague behave better either, you know. Another concept is I think this comes from Finland, if I'm not mistaken, and again, really appropriate for the times that we're in right now. It's a concept called Nixon, and it's to do something without a purpose. And I'm really bad at this, you know. So if I'm going for a walk, I'll always ring somebody while I'm on the phone. If I'm on the dart, I'll do my email. If I'm, you know, sitting on the couch, I will try and, you know, read that article I've been wanting to do for a while, you know. And what this article is saying is there are times where you have to just stop and do nothing, you know, and it gives you some examples there of what that looks like, you know, you know, and you know, daydreaming is good to do, you know. So could you do a Nixon every day for the rest of this period, you know, where for 5 minutes it's walking the dog, or it's looking out the window, or it's sitting down at your kitchen table and having a cup of tea and not doing your phone while you're there, you know. It's talking to the neighbor over the wall at an appropriate distance and so on, you know. So certainly one that I need to focus on myself more. And then sleeping, you know, and I won't go through that in huge detail. But it is something that we can struggle with. And what this article would say is that for leaders who do not sleep, it has a particular impact, not only on them as individuals, but also for their colleagues as well. And it just makes sense, doesn't it? You know, so you know, some kind of very basic solutions in that regard. So I often worry about these kind of seminars, guys, that I'm coming across as evangelical, and that I am Mr. Perfect. As Owen well knows, I am far from that. I actually, as I go through some of those tips, I blush a little bit, and I kind of go, you know, how dare you, Dermot, share these when you're breaking every single one of them yourself, you know? And I don't break them all, but you know, we do need to remind ourselves, you know, and I suspect that at least some of those you're doing already. At least some of those you know about, but you're not doing, and hopefully there's one or two there that you hadn't heard it before, but they've grabbed your attention, you know. And on that note, okay, what we'd like you to do now is just to think about this template for a minute, okay, and Owen is going to put each of you into or we're going to put you into pairs into the room, okay, and we're just going to take 2 minutes to share what has grabbed your attention so far, so the what and the so what. And what we find is that every time we do it, you know, I might be talking to Owen and he says, oh, I love the Nixon thing. And I go, actually, I forgot about that. Or I say to him, I love the 135. And he go, actually, yeah, you're right. I should note that one for myself. So just a very quick interaction. There's no wrong answers here, but it's just a chance to think and pair as people on this particular seminar. So Owen, I think you're going to do kind of a random mix, are you?
I'll do a random mix. So just so that everyone knows what's going to happen, you're going to, it's like you're in the main auditorium at the moment. I'm going to break you out physically into breakout rooms. So the next thing you'll see, it'll just be one other person in the room. So it's to do that exercise with one other person in the room. We've about close to 12:30. So I'm 2 minutes for this. So I'll give you a 1 minute broadcast message when there's 1 minute left. So it'll be quite a quick exercise. It's not going to take very long. So just you'll be breaking into the rooms right now.
So I think Gillian and PJ, you just need to accept that offer to go into the room there now.
Yeah, Gillian's actually got two. She's in twice. So Gillian might be in a room by herself. Unless you wanted to go into breakout room 1, Dermot.
Yeah,
I think Gillian is there. PJ
yeah.
might be the only one who's on a room by himself or hasn't joined. So if you join room 1, that was okay.
Can you put me into that then, Owen?
Oh, you know what's happened is
oh, you hear this now.
Yeah, it's on your, but because you're in screen mode, it's behind the screen mode.
Oh, and just to say that neither Gillian or I could hear each other in the room.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I wonder if that was everywhere.
I don't know now. We'll see. We'll see in a second now.
I can't join any rooms now because they're all in closed down mode.
We're on the way back now. Yeah. We'll see in a minute now. Yeah.
And so it could be people shouting at screens. Thankfully, it's only a 2-minute exercise, so we're unlikely to have lost too much time on it. But
yeah, Gillian and I were going to mime at one stage, but we decided
or hold a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just unmute everyone as everyone's come back in now. I might have to go in and manually close all the rooms. Only Gillian's back. Hi, Gillian. How are you? I believe you weren't able to hear each other. Apologies about that.
No, unfortunately not. But don't worry.
Did it work for you, Brona and Mary? Were you able to hear each other?
Yeah, we had a right chat.
Okay, everyone's back
we
again.
We also covered our points, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, apologies, actually everyone is back. I thought, sorry, I didn't have everyone up on screen there. I'll just have to go through and make sure everyone muted everyone. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll keep moving then. So again, Dilbert, the wisest man in the room. Okay, we're going to turn attention to our teams now. So we've spoken about this question already, so we want to try and drill into that in a little bit more detail, particularly this legacy one as it grabs us. We hadn't intended on completing this exercise on the call. We just don't have enough time today. But this is one that I would recommend you consider for your team subsequently, and that can be whether you're a member of the team or you're leading the team. And it can be for a small team of 5 people. It can be for an overall organization of 500 people. So you can see the different categories there. And basically what you're doing is that you're rating each one of them on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is worst and 5 is best on each of these. So are we happy with quality, quantity, and time, and so on together? And just have a look at those results and think about are there any that maybe surprised you? And subsequently, are there any that you feel you need to action or do something about going forward? So if anybody's up for a bit of homework, I recommend looking at that at a later stage. But at the core of this, it's a seminal article called "Why Should Anybody Be Led by You?" And you can see the quote there, and we're all familiar with leadership and so on. And this is a quote I like, that it actually says that as a leader, we should have 4 specific qualities, and that these qualities are perhaps a little bit surprising in some ways. So this slide, again, it covers what we will do in 2 days. So I won't labor on too much. But this is a really world-class article. It's probably in my, I'm going to say, top 3 of all time. If you only said, what are the 3 you'd recommend the mostly, and for those of you who are not familiar with Harvard Business Review, you can become a member, but they also allow you, I think, to download up to 10 articles free on a monthly basis. So it's a lovely read, and it's well worth the flick if this is an area that you're interested in, And basically, the 4 kind of categories that they talk about as leadership exemplars. Number 1 is reveal your weaknesses. So you are not Superwoman, you're not Superman, you are human and you got warts and all. And if they do it carefully, it can actually be very human and very inspirational in actual fact to our colleagues in that regard. Censoring is a big part of what great leaders do, and that's kind of around the emotional intelligence, so that their antenna is wide open. They're constantly looking for clues and cues, to kind of pick up, is there an undercurrent here in my team, in my organization. Best leaders I've ever worked with are fabulous at empathy. They know when to give me the carrot. They know when to give me a kick in the backside. you know, they're able to tune that in and tailor it on the individual basis. And lastly is that dare to be different, you know, so be yourself and think about, you know, what makes you what makes you the person that you are, and signal that to your colleagues in some shape or manner. So these are kind of, I find them quite unusual to the normal list of what you might see in terms of leadership qualities. But I think there's a lot of goodness in the way that article is written. And really what the authors then talk about is this quote, average managers play drafts. They actually use the word checkers, but I've un-Americanized it. While great managers play chess. You know, for those of you who play either, you get the distinction in terms of that kind of, you know, kind of basic tactical, you might call it, on the draft side, to something much more strategic, big picture from the chess point of view. And there's a very good video here which we don't have time to show, but it actually explains this concept of drafts versus chess in more detail, and we'll give you the link later. I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes long. It's worth a flick when you get a chance. But what the summary of it is as follows: that there's kind of 3 concepts or 3 levers, you might call it. The first is identifying your colleagues' strengths. You know, so what are they good at? What gets them out of bed? What excites them? And by us doing that, we can often work with them better and motivate them better in terms of productivity, accountability, and so on. The second thing is then, you know, how can we trigger those strengths? You know, so how can we, you know, so if we know that Owen is really good at X or Y or Z, you know, what can we do to help him maximize those strengths and perhaps proportionally spend more time with them on a particular day. And the third piece then is that we need to treat each of our team colleagues differently, you know. So depending on their what they call learning style, we all pick up things in a different way. Some of us are what are called analyzers, some are doers, and some are watchers. And you know, so if I was working with Brona tomorrow, and we worked out, you know, that the 2 or 3 things that she's really good at are A, B, and C. And what we then do is that we would then work out, you know, how does Brona like to learn? You know, and you see it in the article, is she an analyzer, a doer, or a watcher? And once we both know that, it will make for a better conversation and an ongoing business relationship between us both. So strongly recommend having a look at that video, guys, and think about it a bit more. And the last thing I'm going to say on this particular topic is that Google has some really brilliant templates in this whole kind of people leadership area. Gillian, you may of us all have come across some of these before, wearing your HR hat, but you know, so they've got team effectiveness guides, they've got you know, how to run meetings, you know, unbiased behaviors, so forth. So if you're looking to pick up some kind of good techniques beyond today, the g.co/rework is a great place to start. Again, Dilbert, wise. Okay, so I'm going to touch very briefly on remote working, and then we're going to finish up then, guys, with some action planning, because as we say, we want to leave with you doing things as opposed to kind of going, yeah, that was a nice way to spend 90 minutes. I'm going to go back to the old me straight after that. So some myths, first of all, in relation to remote working, and 2 that I think we all recognize are, you know, that, you know, people who work from home are slackers, they're lazy, they're walking the dogs, they're watching, you know, whatever, Oprah Winfrey, they're putting on the wash, you know. And the whole logic is that if you can't see somebody working with it, then they aren't, you know. And then as a consequence of that, as remote workers, you know, we feel that we need to constantly be proving that we're working. And you know, so if somebody emails us, we reply to them really fast, you know, or if we're on a chat or whatever, you know, as soon as that pings, we're on it like at lightning speed. And sometimes that's good, but not sometimes it's not so good, you know. So thinking about, you know, our mindset, and also thinking about our bosses, our managers' mindset is important in this whole remote working situation. And this is a piece of research that I came across yesterday, which I recognized in myself quite significantly, you know. So it was a state of the remote working report done late last year, and you can see that you know, what are the things that we're most struggling with, and you know, we've already found amongst the 8 of us here today that 3/4 of us do find that work-life balance has disimproved in recent weeks, and that fits well with the unplugging after work, you know. But other things like loneliness, distractions, you know, and right down to Wi-Fi, you know, these are things that we do have to struggle with on a daily basis. So if you recognize yourself in any of these struggles, you're not alone in that regard, I would say. And again, we had this kind of a balancing scale going, you know. So on the left hand side, we're struggling with things like you know, face-to-face supervision. Like, there is something about looking people in the eye and sitting down with them and you know, working alongside them. There's the just the battle with information, you know. Organizations are getting better in terms of cloud and SharePoints and share drives and so on. But I guarantee you, over the last couple of weeks, there's been a particular report or a document that is in your filing cabinet, it's in your drawer beside your desk and work, and you can't get it. You know, so you know, so that is a challenge. The social isolation that we're all experiencing, and then the home distractions. You know, be that the dog, the child, the you know, the fact that, you know, that we're in a small apartment or whatever that is, you know. So we recognize that these are things that we're dealing with more than what we were before within this remote working thing. And again, a really great article for you to look in a bit more detail. But the 4 recommendations here are as follows: daily check-ins. So don't let, you know, particularly if you're a manager of a team, don't let the day go by without having a conversation either by email, chat, or phone. With each of your colleagues, you know, they would appreciate if you evaluate it. It's worth that time. We're all experiencing the video and chat tools, so that's good as well. The third one is the rules of engagement. So you know, as a team, decide on how you're going to run this new world we're in. You know, so it might be that we have a half-hour meeting every morning to set up the day. It might be that we all agree that between 12 and 2 we'll have no meetings at all, and that's going to be time for us to do stuff, or go walk the dog, do the shopping, and take care of the kids, and have our lunch, you know. So I strongly encourage you, you know, as a result of today, if you haven't already, think about what those rules are and agree them with your colleagues, and you'll all be the better for it, because you know, this is the way the Brona works. This is the way that Mary had her set up at home, and you know, this is the way that you know, that Brendan needs to start his day, and you know, once I know that that's their situations, I'll be able to operate better on that basis, you know. And lastly, then the remote social interaction, you know, and we're seeing this in our friendships already. I had a really great college night out last Friday, where we all went down to Zoom at 9 o'clock, and as you do with your college buddies, we finished up at 3:30. So I'm not suggesting that 6.5 hours of alcohol is a good idea, but you know, there might be that end of day coffee, or the 11s, or you know, maybe we'd all have a cold beer at 6 o'clock on Friday, or whatever it is, you know. And you know, I think just setting that up for the next month or whatever this period is would be worthwhile overall. Your home situation, you know, so we're seeing it slightly as we look over your shoulders right now, guys. I'd love this office on the left hand side. I don't have it, and you know, and I don't think any of us do. You know, so we all have different living situations, but it is possible that the main thing here is to try and set up a work area if you can at all, you know. And this is one I saw recently, you know. So it's effectively a windowsill with a small little table in front of it, you know. But this is this person's work corner, you know. And when he or she is sitting down at it, they're at work. Whereas if you're doing it at the kitchen table, or the dining room table, or the counter, or the couch, whatever else it is, you're straying into your personal space as well. And if you can, if it is possible to have it separated, all the research says that's a good thing to do. And then other tips, and again, a great article to read when you have more time. So that they talk about that. So that workspace is one. The routine is another one. So PJ has mentioned this already. We strongly recommend you know, following his good advice there. So take the breaks. You got to stay active, so we got to get out, get fresh air within our 2 kilometers, the socializing, downtime, do track your work. I'm certainly snacking unhealthily at the moment because the biscuit press is only 12 feet away from me, and the temptation to nip down and get one is very strong. And then lastly, then just be organized. And what the get ready one actually is put on your clothes. You know, so staying in your jammies all day is not a good idea, you know, because, you know, a bit like that kind of thing we said about ending your day, and there's something about just putting on, you know, whether it's a shirt or a jumper or whatever it is. I'm now at work, and I'm going to do that for the next number of hours, and then I'm going to go back to my hoodie, I'm going to go back to my tracksuit, and now I'm not at work, you know. So some good advice there, guys. That's worth considering overall. The last couple of things just on the remote working piece is, you know, we do have to recognise that, and some of us here today, and also our colleagues, were parents, and we do have you know, little people around us who are, you know, going through their own turmoil at the moment, you know. So I'm actually very proud for the last 80 minutes. You did not hear Ben and Tom outside beating the crap out of each other. Now, they are bribed within an inch of their lives, threatened within an inch of their lives, but they managed to stay quiet, and you haven't heard them at any stage. But that ain't going to happen for the rest of the day. You know, there's going to be a massive row out in that landing, and I just got to accept it. And my colleagues accept it, and I've heard other colleagues have similar things in the background, and that's okay, you know. So you know, we just need to be mindful of that as well, you know. And lastly, then, just kind of the data point of view, and I got this article from lawyers in Dublin here, who issued it last week, and they're just saying that, you know, because we're remote working now, and for a lot of us, this is a new situation, we just need to be a bit careful about, are we doing it in a safe way, you know. So things like your laptops, you know, are you locking them away at night, or even just hiding them away, you know. Definitely only use your work email if you can. I suppose your personal, think about the cloud, and if you can avoid paper, if you do have to avoid paper, you know, again, be secure and safe about it. You know, you don't want this to be, you know, to have a break-in and suddenly you have client records have been stolen or worse, you know. So you're probably mindful of this already, but we just wanted to cover it off very quickly. Okay, so this again is a video that somebody might have seen. I do the first version of it very quickly, just to kind of give you a feel for it, just so that you feel a bit human. I might get a thumbs up from you guys to say that you can both see and hear it, please.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Trip Crosby
has joined the meeting.
Beth
has joined the meeting.
Hello?
Tyler?
No, this is Beth from ICS.
Oh, hey, Beth. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Yeah. Just making it, you know.
Tyler?
Has joined the meeting.
All right, well, this is Trip. Who's here?
Tyler's here.
Beth's here.
Okay, the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the...
Yeah, I'll be able to do it in like 30 minutes. John?
Has joined the meeting.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I was just trying to go over the purpose of today's meeting, which is to discuss the
Tyler?
Has joined the meeting.
Sorry, guys, I got cut off. Is Paul here? Send him the invite.
Put in your access code.
No, that's your PIN number.
It should be a 9-digit number.
Try pressing the pound key.
Paul.
Has joined the meeting.
Any questions before we move on?
Yes, this is Beth. What's our best plan of attack for the second quarter?
Question
What we should do... Oh, go ahead. Oh, well, I think what we should do is
it actually
really
depends on
diversify.
how you look at it, because the
really
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Given sales, we're at
let me just say that...
Okay.
That was a great graph, John. Tyler?
Well, my main concern with the projections from last year was that they're just insufficient. I mean, they're not even taking into account...
Did we lose Tyler again?
Hello?
John, are you guys taking distributions? John?
Oh, my bad. I was on mute. Let me start over.
So I've prepared a presentation. I'm sharing it with all of you. You should be able to see it on your screen right now.
Got it.
I don't see a link anywhere.
It says I need to download a plugin.
We are all using Macs, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
How can you? Of course.
Financials are looking great. Paul, do you have any comments on staffing?
I was thinking about that because we get a few more contractor types in. Hold on, I'm sorry. Rex, get down!
I don't know. I feel like when I look at the numbers last year, that you couldn't really tell a huge difference. So if we were to really tighten that up, then I...
To me, staffing is a huge impact.
Is that me?
Is that me?
It's not me, I don't think.
I just want to go over a couple of details as we move into our next section here. We got 3 new departments coming on board.
Break it up a little bit, guys.
By the end of Q3.
Driving to the dead
I need
spot.
everyone to give me detailed evaluations each month so that we know. That's it, guys. Beth, you'll send out a recap email that could have basically taken the place of this whole meeting, correct?
Yep, always do.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Beth. Dave, you been here the whole time?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, thanks everyone once again. Oh, one more
So, we've all been on those calls, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, you know, I enjoy the video, but there is a serious message from as well. You know, that it can be a struggle, you know. I always show this video to teams every time I'm starting a new project where we're working remotely. And it's kind of my gentle way of signaling to my new colleagues, you know, we need to watch our behaviors on these calls going forward. So if anybody wants to link, I'm happy to share that later on as well. Okay, guys, we're into the last 10 minutes. Okay, so you're about to get your lives back, I promise. So just a couple of slides to go, if that's all right. So good old Dilbert. So, action planning. So we're going to move back to these 3 questions again, and you know we're not able to answer them individually in 90 minutes, but I'd really love, you know, if today, tomorrow, over the weekend, you reflect on those 3 and you judge yourself on where you are today, and you decide on a couple of actions which you're going to do to push them forward. Okay. And where they all lead to, guys, is this concept. I don't know if you've come across it before, called a lollipop moment. Okay, and I'm going to show you a quick TED talk here in a minute. But you see the dictionary definition. It's a special moment where I positively shaped another person's life, but I mightn't have realized I'd done that. Okay, and again, I've been shown this concept to colleagues and courses for a number of years now. But when we're putting this together, this lollipop moment is so important for the world we're in right now, and I think this video will help to explain why. So again, if I just get a thumbs up from somebody,
I want to start by asking everyone in the audience here a question. How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school in a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, on my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day, and if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what. And she said, so I went the next day, and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home, and just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shinorama, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years, and you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me, and you just stopped, and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me, and you smiled, and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop, and you held it out to him. And you said, you need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you. And she said, I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life. He turned beet red, and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and my dad, and you said, look at that. Look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger. And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, you should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later. A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker, I don't remember that. I have no record.
I'm going to hit pause there, guys. The video runs for another 3 minutes, but that's kind of the main headlines to it. So I doubt this morning when you got up that you expected to be talking about lollipops over this this short seminar, maybe you know I've gone a little bit kind of deep into ourselves more than what you expected, but I think even in a normal situation that we would have, guys, I still fundamentally believe as colleagues, as team leaders, as supervisors, whether we've got 500 or 500 people, we do have the ability to impact on our colleagues' lives. And this concept of a lollipop moment, I think, is good in an ordinary world, but in this extraordinary world we're in right now, I think it's become even more important, And if we've more time, I'd love to chat, because what I say to you is that each of you have received a lollipop moment over the last month, year, 10 years. I guarantee you, if you thought about it for a minute or two, you think about something where somebody made an impact in your life and they didn't realize how important it was what they said to you, And my challenge to you today is first of all to think about when you received it, and then secondly is what opportunities do you have now over the coming days and weeks in particular for which you can initiate a lollipop moment for one of your colleagues, and we all have the ability to control, and this doesn't have to be world class in terms of creativity. It can just be that text, that phone call, the thinking of you type situation. I promise you, if I go back to that question here of as a team leader, how will I be remembered during this crisis? And I believe that one of the ways is through this lollipop moment situation. So say you weren't expecting that when you get out of bed this morning,
Dermot, do we have time for questions before?
Yeah.
if people need to go, we've hit 1 o'clock. But do you have time, Dermot, to stay on for a few minutes for
Yeah, I've
Q&A?
no home to go down, but
Yeah, that old excuse is gone now, isn't it?
Exactly. The very last thing to say to guys, you know, from an action planning point of view, do take this page later tomorrow and try and populate it with some of the things that grab your attention. And most importantly then, you know, fill in that third column, you know, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things you're going to do as a result of what we've been chatting about today. So I'm delighted to take any feedback, queries, comments while watching the clock on behalf of people who do need to disappear.
Right. I might kick it off, and I'll kick it off unfairly because it was comment to Mary you made at the very beginning, which was one of the complications of remote work is trying to get people to do things that you know, maybe in the physical environment when you can see them and arm wrestle them into or put them in a headlock, where it's a little bit more, or it's different when it's remote. And maybe it's not because it's remote, maybe they weren't going to do it anyway. But just if there's any thoughts on that. And Mary, please tell me if I've completely ambushed what you were saying and totally misrepresented it.
No, I think that's true. I think because, you know, sometimes yourself, you forget even that you have to do something until you see someone walking down the corridor, and then you go, oh God, yeah, remember I have to do that for you. And that's gone, you know. So it's all the ways of trying to get collaboration amongst teams. You know, it's tough.
Dermot, would you have any views?
Yeah. Yes, Owen.
Sorry, I caught you at a bad moment there.
No, I swallowed the wrong way there. Yeah, totally agree. It's and none of us are saints. None of us have this correct, you know. But if we're at least kind of mindful of what good would look like, we might even get halfway there, you know. And as I say, I'm doing half the stuff we've spoken about today, but there's certainly a number of things I should be doing better myself, you know. And that's okay. That's okay, you know. The lollipop moment, guys, is that something that kind of captures you? You know, do you get it, and could you see why it is something for you to consider over the coming weeks?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I guess
I think
on the perceiving what people are doing remotely. I did an agile course there before Christmas, and myself and another chapter introduced this target process kind of software that essentially puts up tiles for all the tasks that people are doing. So there's kind of a backlog, a sprint list, and in progress and what's done. And we have found that tremendously beneficial, both when we were all in the office and very much so now that we're out of the office. Because it helps take away a lot that feeling of who's doing what.
Yeah, very good.
PJ, can I ask how you actually share that? Or do you share it in a collaborative document? Or is it, are you emailing around to each other? Or is it in SharePoint? Or is it in the Microsoft Teams? Or
you log into it. So,
it's a platform then?
The platform, yeah. So we're all seeing the same screen. So when we have this video meeting like this, that's what's on screen. So you can actually see what's in each kind of list, and you can put kind of rough times on what the task will take. So again, for the person managing the department, it makes it very easy for them to see who's doing what.
Great, and people updated in terms of what they've done and what's completed, and that's.
Yes, you just transfer it into, well, sprint list is kind of what we intend to do in the next 2 weeks. In progress is what you're doing now. So he can see a screen of what each person is doing in progress and just put it all together. For the meetings, it makes it really good.
Right.
We'd really be struggling without it.
Sorry, Gillian, I think you were about to say something there, were you?
Yeah, just one thing we're finding really helpful in SMBC Aviation Capital at the moment actually is being really clear on people's objectives. And to be honest, it kind of, I was quite hesitant to go out and talk to people about objectives at a time like this, when obviously everything has been thrown up in the air and it's such a busy time for our business and for our customers and all of that. But actually the response that I've had when I've explained to people in the context of when everyone is working remotely, and given the fast-moving and challenging environment in which we're working at the moment, actually coming back to being really clear on people's objectives and clarifying what people are responsible for and the priorities is actually more important than ever. And a lot of feedback that I'm getting from people now, kind of a week after delivering that message, is actually that those conversations have been really helpful. So that just, and I'm talking now short-term objectives, obviously I'm not talking about sitting down and doing big performance management process or anything like that, but just having those conversations in terms of the immediate priorities, what each individual on the team is responsible for, and building that alignment around the team in terms of how we work together to achieve that can be worth doing, even though people are really busy at the moment.
And
I think that's very smart, Gillian. You know, if I was one of your colleagues, I could see how that would be so helpful, you know, and probably liberating in a way, you know, and it's connected to that kind of rules of engagement piece as well, isn't it? You know, giving people permission to maybe do things a bit differently than they normally would, you know. So well done, yeah, that's very smart, very smart.
Great. Anyone, any other comments or any other questions, or even comments on the technology that people are using?
I'd have one just, I suppose, similar to Tom Caffrey there. We're using Microsoft Teams. Yeah, it works. We struggle with some things, like I find Zoom for the collaborative meetings far more user-friendly. And again,
I think there's a consensus in that.
To deliver training. We're using it to deliver training remotely to people. And yeah, it works quite well.
Anyone else using any other technology or any? Who else is using Microsoft Teams actually, out of interest?
Yeah, we're using.
Yeah, we use
Teams. Yeah, we're using Teams.
We
Okay,
just use WebEx.
And can I just ask, in Microsoft Teams, are a lot of people using it now for the first time, or has it been something that they've been using up to then?
We would have used it a good bit, but I think we're kind of getting a bit more out of it now. We're kind of looking into the capabilities, and we're really kind of using it to its full potential, I think, now.
Okay.
There was a plan in place. There was a plan in place in our place to roll out Teams over the next 6 months or a year or whatever it was going to be, but the IT team rolled it out within the space of a week, and it has revolutionised the ways that we're working at the moment. So it's gone down really well with people.
Anyone, any just on final comments? Anyone, any general comments in terms of remote working, either you know, positive and negative? You know, positive of what they've experienced so far of it, and then negative in terms of the big challenges that they're currently facing. If you ponder that, it might be, if we go from maybe PJ, if you wouldn't mind going first, just a positive and a negative, and then maybe Brona after that.
I suppose the positive is it has pushed us into using the technology very quickly, and for our training department into actually delivering training using technology. So that part of it has been good. Yeah, communication between us as a team takes a bit of time to get used to, and to use the technology to help you understand clearly what we're all doing, what we're routine.
Brona, have you any negative, or I suppose maybe challenges rather than even negative?
Yeah, like I suppose just one comment, even, I don't know, am I thinking positive or negative, but I suppose I really liked, I think it's Gillian's comment there about focusing on the objectives and the responsibilities of the team, because I think at the moment things are so different, and, you know, we're not working on what we usually work on. We're focusing on business priority and, you know, making sure that I suppose we're doing the best for our companies and stuff like that. So I think that's a really important thing that we might be missing at the moment. And we try to kind of keep the normality going. Like, we'd meet every day and work anyway. We'd have a stand-up meeting every morning, and we're trying to continue that. But I think we do need to go back a little bit about, you know, I took a note about the rules of engagement and really understanding what did the team need. I think that's important, and I really like the part about the short-term objectives and what's everybody's responsibility. They're just things that I'm, you know, focusing on, I suppose, and thinking about now, because it's harder not, you know, doing this virtually and not being beside a person or you know, and I suppose the camera, I think, is a really strong support there, having it on and being able to see someone's, you know, facial expressions, and I think it makes it a lot easier. They're just my thoughts.
Great.
Thank you for those, Gillian. I just want to say, listen, to thank everybody for tuning in today, and for sharing your comments and your own experience. It's very, very helpful, and I hope that you know, we all get through this somehow. And if at any stage either Owen or I can help, feel free to reach out to us through the IBCE, and we'd be delighted to have a further chat.
Great, and we'll hopefully have the video of today. We'll have, and hope the slides and a small report from today that we put up on the ICBE website. We'll probably put it up as a password protected document, and that we'll share with you either later today or tomorrow, because it's quite a long video. It might take a long time for it to process.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, the slides would be great to share with some of our team. There's some good articles there and videos. Thanks.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.
Best of luck. Have a good day.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, and tuning up.
Thank you very much, gents.
I'm sure there's grumbling stomachs going on all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Dermot's reminder. I've found remote working that it's suddenly 4 o'clock and I haven't eaten lunch. So I'm taking that as my first to do and go have lunch now.
Okay.
But thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.